All right, everybody, we're going to get started. I'm super excited to welcome you all to our first live Q&A with our athlete panel. My name is Parker Bealey, and I'm here with Jeff Oakes, and we're going to be talking through some of these amazing stories that these athletes have to share and really give you an opportunity to be able to ask them questions on their path in ski racing, kind of their hardships and their successes, and give yourselves an opportunity to learn from their paths. So, Jeff, thank you for being my co-host today. I'm super excited to be with you. And then to our four athletes, I'm super excited to have you guys on today to be able to share those stories. So, to get started, let's go through a little bit of introduction. And so, our first athlete that we have is Alex Leever. Alex is from DU, races a lot of World Cup in slalom, went to DU, got his master's as well. And then, Alex, if you could tell a little bit about yourself, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Parker. My name is Alex. I grew up skiing in Vail, Colorado, so home sink right now. So it's great to, support a hometown brand and get to work with them so closely. Like Parker said, I went to DU. I went to college right out of high school, competed 5 years there and won 3 NCAA championships with the team. I was named an All-American my senior year before I decided to continue skiing independently. And I had some success in the NORAM circuit, the Europa Cup circuit, and made it to World Cup where I scored my first points last year in slaloming before this year, continuing to race all the World Cups and trying to, continue to follow the dream.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex. And let's go to our next guy, Patrick Kenny. Patrick Kenny is from Massachusetts, went to Burke Mountain Academy, went to UNH as well, and is now also just started his first World Cup. So, Pat, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Parker. My name's Patrick, and I went to Burke Mountain Academy. I grew up racing on the weekends at Attitash when I was young, and from a suburb of Boston, Hingham, Massachusetts. And after I graduated, I was fortunate enough to join Global Racing, and I'm living in Europe right now, pursuing ski racing. And now that I'm a college graduate, it feels pretty good. So thanks for having me, Parker.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. Now we're going to move down to Maddie Deco, who's from Minnesota and raced for Buck Hill before going to Williams College. Maddie, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. I'm Maddie. As Parker said, I'm from Edina, Minnesota, which is right outside Minneapolis. I grew up in skiing at Buck Hill, which is tiny, but I like to say mighty. I raced under Coach Eric Seiler for about 9 years there, and then I took a gap year at Vail and went to Williams College, where I majored in math and political science. I just graduated in 2021, and now I'm doing a post-grad year in Vail, actually, with Parker. So thanks, Parks.
Thank you, Maddie. And then last but not least, we have Steph Fleck, who also raced for CU, is from Canada, and is really pursuing a major speed career right now in the World Cup. So, Steph, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Thanks, Parker. I'm Steph. I'm from Whistler, so I'm the lone Canadian out here. I did attend CU for 3 years. I'm not quite graduated, but hopefully over the next 10 years, I'll graduate at some point. I'm pursuing speed this year. I started off in speed as a younger racer and then took a more tech approached couple of years when I went to college. And now I'm back on the speed circuit, living in Europe full time and racing the Speed World Cups. And I love sync.
Awesome. Thank you, you guys, and thank you for those quick introductions. There are people starting to funnel in right now, so hopefully this becomes a super fun event that we can do with more athletes in the future, but we're excited to dive into some of the questions that we received this week from our followers on Instagram. So thanks to everybody who sent in those questions, and we're going to get it rolling. Jeff, you want to take it away?
Yeah, of course, Parker. I'm Jeff, president of Sync and co-founder. super psyched to have these athletes on. I think just for those who are just joining us, we're doing a live Q&A with some of our longtime ambassadors and recent ambassadors. A big part of Sync is, talking to the athletes and making sure that they're the ones who own and control the brand, really giving up the brand to them, and they make the decisions so that we can build a better product and serve them in any way they need and solve all their problems. And so, with that, I think that it's, I'm a former, collegiate ski racer, alma mater BC, just like Parker, and grew up kind of like Pat outside of Boston, and in a suburb, and was weekend warrior for a while, and finally into Vermont. So my first question, because I think we have a pretty wide range of people on this live who kind of come from all different experiences, just like you guys. But I think that weekend warrior thing is pretty interesting to me, just because I was one at one point. And Pat, you made it a lot further than I ever did. But I'm curious to kind of hear you talk about that journey of competing against people who are full-time academy kids, and then you being a weekend warrior, when you made that transition, and kind of how that prepared you mentally for the longevity of your career now racing World Cup.
Yeah. Well, to start, I think it was, I grew up racing in New Hampshire. So in New Hampshire, there was, Waterville was pretty much the big academy there. But really Vermont had most of the academies and had, the strength at a young age. We had a lot of good kids my age. So it made it pretty competitive. And I think a lot of us made the leap to a ski academy at the same year. So none of us kind of got too far ahead of the other, and it kept it pretty competitive. I went in 8th grade over to Burke. So I think that was good. I also think that the benefits of skiing on the weekends is you have all week to fill your time when you're not racing or training. So, playing other sports or, keeping your mind busy on something else isn't necessarily the worst thing. I played, a good amount of other sports, and I think that is a big reason as to why I'm here right now. Just kind of building a big athletic base. Regardless, it always helps, and especially my skiing to this day. I always depend on that. So I think that would be probably my reasoning of the benefits of weekend warriors if I was to sell it to someone, my kid or something.
Well, Maddie, you might have an interesting perspective on that same question as well, being a Buck Hiller, where it's right outside of the city in Minneapolis. So can you kind of speak to that topic as well?
Yeah, I think that in Minnesota, we have a lot of weekend warriors as well. I mean, I started actually in beer league with my dad, so it was me and 50-year-olds. So I think that it provides at Buck Hill a great way to get introduced to the sport. And for us, it was always at night, actually. So it was from 7 to 9. And I think that in general, the whole point of the weekend warrior is to have fun and to really drive that passion for that sport. And that's what takes, I know everyone on this panel, we have a passion for skiing, and that had to start somewhere. And so I think it offered a great channel into it and having a lot of fun. I can say at Buck Hill, because it's small, you cherish every turn, you cherish every run in the gates. And it's something that's truly special. And I think, all 4 of us are in gates all the time now, but when you're first getting into it, that is the most special time, the most special day. So I can't speak highly enough of my time as a weekend warrior, as they say.
Awesome. And you started to mention time and gates, and I think that this panel is pretty fun because we do have kind of a bunch of different perspectives and different disciplined skiers. And so Pat, you're kind of a big GS guy. Maddie and Alex, you guys are a little bit more slalom. And then Steph, we're going to use you as our big speed Super G downhill person. So that is going to be where we head from here. So Steph, one of your questions is, which do you prefer as a speed skier, downhill or Super G?
Oh God, I always loved Super G more growing up because I was more afraid of downhill and jumping and the higher speeds. But the more speed I've done, the more I really enjoy downhill, just because it really shows how much experience goes into it, having the same tracks every season, and you can kind of see which girls are progressing over the years. And I think jumping is really cool. Like, I think it's just really entertaining that people go down a hill at whatever, 120 kilometers an hour and then jumps on the way.
Awesome, thank you. And then Alex, everybody wanted to ask you, why is slalom the best discipline?
Well, I don't know. It's hard to compete with the mystique of downhill. You know, I don't think they've made a movie like The Strife yet about a slalom race, but I love slalom because it's such a fast pace and, technical discipline, whereas, it's different every day. Like Steph was saying, we go to the same hills, but from one year to the next, they can be totally different, whether it's snow preparation or obviously course sets, what direction they go. Like in Vangen, for example, this year, there's a hut, like a summertime shack where they mow hay and put it in the middle of the hill. And so sometimes they go around the left side of it and sometimes they go around the right. And like, it's a totally different hill, whichever way you ski. And I think slalom has that ability since it's, the hill lengths and the widths and things don't have as big of a requirement as, GS Super G downhill. So I think you can get more creative. You can, kind of get to more places, more unique, smaller hills and things like that. And I think slalom is kind of the base of skiing. Like everyone grows up skiing slalom because, GS and slalom are, what every kid grows up skiing. And I always just love the fast pace, the technicality, hidden gates is really fun. You can't get over it.
That's awesome. And then Maddie, someone kind of asked you on a similar vein, how do you have such a short arc when you're in a slalom course?
Well, I think that I always think about like leverage as it being the shortest thing. So like staying super far in the front seat. I also think that like that is my favorite part about slalom in general, is like trying to shorten the arc. So seeing how quick your pressure can be. So whether that's being super aggressive, super forward, just anything to kind of really feel that energy. Cause that's when I know it's the shortest, it's the fastest, and that feeling is like addictive. So yeah, any leverage, super aggressive with the knees, super calm upper body. And I wouldn't be a buck hiller if I didn't say pole plant to keep it short.
And then Pat, now last but not least, what about GS? What makes you so into GS in those turns versus going the speed route or the slalom route?
Good question too. I think very similar to all theirs. They're all very technical events in their own. I think what I like about GS is it really could be anyone's day. All it takes is one guy to, string two perfect runs together or nearly perfect runs together. And, someone could have a mistake on the first run and still be in the race on the second run, may not win, but I think it's the most variable in terms of, who's at the top. And sometimes that's really exciting and other times it can be really frustrating, but the uncertainty of it is definitely appealing to me in a lot of senses.
Cool, thank you guys. I think it would be crazy if we didn't jump into a little bit of the college question. Does anyone want to start really, because this affects all of you, of how college really affected your time as a ski racer? Alex, you want to take it away?
Sure. I am obviously a huge proponent of college skiing. I think that it is perfectly placed in the developmental pathway to help athletes achieve success down the road. I think that, there's unique circumstances where you have an athlete who's, 17, 18, 19 years old and, is already at a World Cup caliber, the Michaelas of the world, don't need to go to college. But I think for the vast majority of skiers, it's an insanely amazing platform to be able to use. I know for me personally, I matured immensely physically and also mentally, which was a huge aspect of my improvement in skiing. I showed up at college at 18 years old, 150 pounds, string bean. Like, I could not compete with any NORAM caliber skier, let alone World Cup. And being in college allowed me to grow physically as well as, be able to, I think college really allows you to come into your own and really take ownership of your skiing, because there's no one who's forcing you to get better. I mean, yes, there's training provided every day, but like, the onus is on you to really drive forward and improve yourself. And if you have World Cup aspirations, like, it's doable. I think, everyone on this call is an example of like what pursuing your dreams post college can do. And so I can't speak highly enough about it. I loved my time in college. It was an amazing, 5 years for me. And I think it really gave me a unique perspective once I got to the World Cup, because I knew that there was life outside of skiing. I think that took some of the pressure off of me personally, because I knew that, a good day or a bad day, while it has obviously effects short term, there's so much that you learn in college about just friends outside of skiing and, obviously your major and all these things that you learn, that it takes some of the pressure off, which is one of the biggest factors at the World Cup level, at least.
Cool.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I mean, I'll go. Parker, or Alex, that was, interesting thing about what you said about kind of like, I mean, I think the onus is on you and you as an athlete. And I think that's super true, right? In college racing, kind of like you have this interplay between team and individual. And, a lot of people, ski racing is such an individual sport, but all of a sudden, like once you have that team camaraderie and coming into play within the college team and sort of like playing off each other in training and, in the weight room and all of that, like, I don't know. I mean, you can answer that too, but maybe some of the other, panelists could talk through about kind of like what that does for you, like having a team behind you or, with you on the hill, while that's pushing you, but, at the same time, kind of like, everyone's pumping each other up and all that. So anyone can take that.
I can actually take that one. I loved my team in college. And I would say, like, on the days that, I mean, ski racing is a tough sport. It's brutal. And having that team behind you makes those days, like, infinite. Like, they pick you up. They take away kind of like that sting, because they're the ones that are saying, don't doubt yourself. We got this. Also, like, when you're racing and you have a bad day and your teammate has a good day, you're so psyched for them. So it doesn't necessarily, it takes pressure off the individual in the sense of you have like 6 other people around you that you're cheering for, that you want to win. And so it really brings out kind of not just on you, it's on everyone. And that being said, the flip side is when you do have a great day and you do have like an awesome run, race, whatever, like your team is so excited for you. Like, it goes both ways. And so it makes almost the wins sweeter, and every other day it brings you up just as much. So I would say having that team around, it's invaluable and gives you a lot of perspective and makes you grow a lot, actually.
Cool. What about you, Patrick? Do you have anything from your time at UNH that you think really plays into the fact that your career has progressed? You went to school and now are racing World Cup.
Yeah, for sure. I think to start, I thrive a lot off of distraction. I can't focus too much on one subject. So I think that college forced me to, it's forced me to split my time. And I think that was very beneficial to me in racing, both in school. I think, it like being forced to divide my time was good for me mentally, and, it really helped me sort of find my way, both skiing and in school, because you have to pay attention to both if you want to be successful in both. So I think that was my favorite part of it, was sort of the distraction off the hill, to fill in the mind.
Great, thanks, Pat. And then Steph, you want to put in any closing thoughts on that?
I think one of the most valuable things about college racing is just teaching you more about yourself as a person. Like, as all of us kind of realized the longer we were in college, and I think the more we skied for college, we realized like we have these bigger goals outside, and you really have to stand up for yourself, and you really have to be like strong with your independent goals, because at the end of the day, not everyone who goes to college has those same goals. And I think that's kind of the beauty of it, is like some people are just there for their 4 years, and other people are like us who really went in knowing we wanted to keep going. But I think that just having kind of a different perspective on life after getting out of college, like it made me appreciate skiing so much more now that I'm out, because I would get whatever, a couple hours a week training when I was at school, and now I can ski all day, every day, and I get to go to races and travel as much as I want. So I think that's kind of just gaining different perspectives and really learning how to like believe in yourself when maybe other people don't have the same ambitions as you.
It's funny you say that, Steph. Like, there's definitely a stark contrast, like going into senior year as a collegiate athlete, of like who's looking to pursue more and who's kind of like riding the wave of senior year. And that's definitely a reality of college. And I think people just, have to be their own individual and have their own goals. And it's certainly different for everyone. So yeah, I mean, I think all of you guys have shown that it's, certainly possible to extend that career and make the World Cup and get to that level and be really successful. Parker, what's our next question?
So we're going to kind of dive into some of these like more specific to each athlete questions. So I think this will get kind of fun. And Maddie, we're going to start with you, and everyone really wants to know a lot about Williams. And so the first question is, what is the hardest workout that you've ever done at Williams?
Well, the real answer is first practice. But I can't say much on it because it's a Williams secret. So that's the first one. No, I think that in general, Williams is awesome. And that's the cool thing about college for everyone's college, is like when you go to college, these workouts, like you may not get as much time on snow, but you work maybe doubly as hard in dry land, weightlifting, etc. So I can say my hardest workouts definitely came from Williams.
Cool. Thank you, Maddie. And then Pat, I think this is a fun one for you. Do you have a pre-race ritual that you kind of stand by before every race?
I don't really have a pre-race ritual at all. I think, yeah.
Not a same sock guy, like right or left, like what's the...
Nah, I guess, I mean, I do have superstitions, the certain ways I like get into the gate, I breathe a certain way before I kick out of the gate. I, click my poles into the start at a certain time on the clock, but nothing too crazy. That's not
No rituals besides all of those rituals you just mentioned.
A ritual. I have a coffee every morning. That's about it.
All right. Well, coffee to get the day going. A little
espresso
caffeine.
Or what kind of coffee? What's your go-to?
If it was my choice, it'd be a cold brew. But since they don't have that in Europe, it would be cappuccino. Yeah.
Cool. And then Steph, I think this is kind of a fun one. What is some advice you would give to your younger self?
Oh my gosh. I would say don't let anyone tell you not to be yourself, because the number of coaches that told me not to smile when I was on the hill racing, or told me that I needed to not do certain things or not be as girly or not just be myself. I think that would definitely be one thing I would tell myself. Like, don't be afraid to be 100% you. It's not going to take away from your athletics, because at the end of the day, being 100% you is what's going to get you where you want to go. So definitely that.
I really like that too, especially because we're now seeing more of you with all of your vlogging and YouTube content. So it's good to see that you're still yourself.
Thank you. Never dull the sparkle. Oh my God.
It's a good one. And so then, Alex, for you, what is some advice that you would give to a younger racer?
I guess some advice I would give would be that hard work and determination can take you really far in the sport. Growing up, I was good, for my age, but I was not the best. I, got like a couple podiums at, the age class races and at like the, like local, whatever. I think now it would be like U14 championships or something. But, there was a bunch of athletes my age who, swept, all the races or who would win by huge margins and, blah, blah, blah. And I think my biggest advice would be that, if you keep working hard, that you can go really far. And I like to look at it that you have an X and Y axis, and the Y axis is, your rate of progression, and X is time. So you can't control what your starting point is on this Y axis. However good you are, wherever your starting point is, you can't really control. All you can control is your progression. And if there's someone who starts above you, but is improving at, 2% per year or whatever, and you're improving at a little more, 3 or 4, you're going to pass them eventually. And the more work you put in, the more time on snow, the more time in the gym, all of those things are just going to help you develop a work ethic that even if you don't make it to be world champion in skiing, will help you in all other aspects of life. So I think that would be my advice I would give.
Alex, that is huge advice, but I also have to say that's definitely your DU master's degree talking right there. Once you're getting out the accesses and talking about math, that's one way.
Yeah.
The inputs equal the outputs kind of thing, Alex.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's fun that we're starting to get more and more people on the live, and so I just want to say welcome to anybody who's really just joined, and hopefully you guys are getting something out of this so far. It's an amazing opportunity to be able to pick the brains of some of these incredible athletes, and it's fun. We just got a great live question for Steph. So, Steph, what was going through your mind during your first downhill?
Well, first of all, hi, Kate. I coached Kate at the American Downhillers Camp last year, so it's always fun to see your students, which he was my student. But anyways, my first downhill was at World Juniors, and I'm not going to lie, the only thing going through my head was do not fall out of the start gate. I was so scared. I was starting last. I was not even nervous about the run because I was so scared to fall out of the start because I'd never been on skis that long. But anyways, that's the only thing going through my head. But if you're going into your first downhill race, definitely just be confident because confidence is key in downhill.
And as you're now racing World Cup and more Europa Cup speed, do you still have that same thought when you're in the start gate?
Yes, I do. Every single inspection, I have to push out of the start because I'm so scared to hook a tip. But it's definitely gotten easier as I've gotten used to skating on long skis.
Cool. Then, Pat, I actually really like this question. Someone's interested in going to Burke and was wondering if you could talk through what a daily basis at Burke and what a daily life looks like.
So I'm grateful for my time at Burke Mountain Academy. It was an awesome experience, as Parker knows. I would say a day in the life of a Burkie is you wake up in the winter, you wake up, eat some breakfast, do warm up in the gym, head up to the hill for some training starting at 9, go train for 2.5 hours, get 4 to 6 runs in, which is a pretty good number on that hill. And you come down, do a little cool down or some sort of stretching and go to lunch. And then you got a whole 3 classes that afternoon, which is, it's like a half day in theory, but, it's a long day. And then you're done at 4, when I was there, I was done at 4:30. And then you go into your skis and go to dinner, and then you have the night to do either homework or catch up on something because it's hard to keep up with everything. There's not enough hours in the day for sure, but it's a lot. And if you are happy to be there and you're happy to see progression in your skiing, then it's a good place for you. Otherwise, it's not. So.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a really good description of Burke.
Yeah, it sounds like a jam-packed schedule there for you, Pat, at that time. And kind of like thinking about that a little bit, you guys have all progressed throughout your careers, and as a junior athlete, like you were talking about 4 to 6 runs, and thinking about like volume and how that's changed, based on kind of your health, your how you're managing throughout the season and throughout your career. So like from a junior athlete to now racing World Cup, like where does volume play into that? Do you guys like try and get as many runs as possible, or is it just you kind of play it day by day like that? How does that kind of go for you guys? Open to anyone.
Well, for me, I would say there's a time and place for certain days. I'd say certain days in the summer or fall, you need volume over anything in reps. I think once you're pretty dialed with your setup and your body and your skiing, then you can kind of focus on staying, healthy and getting the best out of only a few runs that day of training to, optimize your time on snow and optimize your recovery. Because the season, once it's off, it doesn't stop at all. Even if you get like a lucky 4 or 5 days off, it doesn't feel like, any much of like a break at all. So I would say that there's a time and place for sure, but definitely more reps in the summer.
Yeah. What PK was saying, I think that in the summertime, fall, you can really ramp up the volume. And then the winter time, you decrease it a little bit, but raise up the intensity. So it's kind of, like as you raise up the intensity, you lower the volume a bit. As let's say race prep, you're only going to take 3 runs, but there's 3 maximal, full effort runs, bib on, timing, everything. Whereas in the summer, you can maybe take 7 or 8 runs, but you're taking it a little more chill. You're still working on things, but you're not at, race pace. So I think it's just important to, like Pat was saying, to listen to your body and to know that you can't just be going at 100% full gas 12 months a year, because you'll burn out. And so you have to really manage your stress and your skiing and everything as you go through the year.
I have a slightly different kind of answer, because with speed, it's definitely different training than tech. Obviously, there's less turns, there's a lot less volume in a day, and I think it's really hard to get speed training at any time of the year. But I'd say, like, no matter what time of the year it is that we're training speed, you're generally going for as many runs as you can in that session, because you can't get speed training everywhere. And a lot of the time you'll kind of take what the boys were talking about, like you'll have less volume on the days you're maybe training GS, but then anytime you get a chance to be in a Super G, and especially a downhill course, like I think you're just going as much as you can, because ultimately you'll maybe get 30 or 20 days a year of actual like high intensity training. So it's a little different for speed, I feel like.
I can say a little bit about volume from junior to now. Coming from Buck Hill, I mean, we're known for volume, just go, get as many as you can. And I think that it's super, super beneficial when you're just getting to the sport and all the way through probably U16s, is just to be getting as much time on snow, as many gates, as many turns in any possible way. I really think that it solidifies your turn technique. So I'm a huge proponent of volume, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't get that volume when I was that age. That being said, as I've kind of gotten older, I would consider myself still to be a high volume skier compared to just like my training partners around me. But it definitely ramps down in the sense of like a high volume day for us might be like 6 to 8 runs, or full length, or maybe max 10 or something. And basically what you learn as you go forward is like how much more energy we put into every single run. So rather than taking 20, like we were putting so much energy into those 6 runs, or it's just about that conservation of it. So in addition to like, as the volume is decreasing, your intensity is increasing, is what Alex was saying. And also I would say you kind of learn how to make those runs count. And so it's a different type of learning, if that makes any sense. So when you're learning from just learning your turn, learning the technique involved, to when you only have 4 or 3 runs, you learn how to make those runs perfect or the best you can at that race intensity. So it's almost like the racing volume almost goes up a little bit in terms of race prep, and it's just a different style of learning as you get older.
Yeah, I think those are all really, really good points, and I know that volume does change, and sometimes snow condition affects volume, and sometimes the hill you're on affects your volume as well, and I think it's really interesting to hear from Steph's perspective that if you get the opportunity to take a ton of runs, you take them. So I think that's really neat. I want to kind of transition a little bit because the Olympics started today. Opening ceremonies were today in Beijing. And I know you guys probably have a ton of friends that are participating in the Olympics this year. And so someone actually came in with a live question of who is your dark horse for the Olympics this next couple of days?
Ali Nolmeyer.
Good one.
Pick.
Anybody else?
Jack
On the
Crawford.
on the guys speed side, I would say Jack Crawford. I think he's, easy podium potential, especially on a new track where no one's been.
Anyone
Canadian
else?
sweep.
I don't think River is much of a dark horse, but I think he's going to be right up there.
I'm going to agree with Pat on that one. I think the grippy snow, or at least what it looks like on the Instagram, I think Americans are going to do well, and I think River in particular.
That's his bread and butter.
Yeah.
Trish Mangan, super combined.
Yeah.
Sam Mays and Dries and Martin, those are my teammates out here. All of them. And Jess.
Well,
Louis!
Winners.
it's awesome to see such excitement coming from you guys about the Olympics coming up. And really, how does that feel to have teammates like you mentioned, Pat, that are racing? And Steph, I know your boyfriend's racing as well. And Maddie, you have teammates racing. And Alex, you as well. How is that you guys are so connected to the Olympics and it's just about to start? What are your thoughts on that?
It's really cool. I mean, it's obviously fun and exciting. It's an exciting time of year of every 4 years. It's cool to see, those guys shove off for China. I think that, especially when they're shoving off, I mean, they're from they're from Belgium and the Netherlands, but these guys are, top skiers that can, legitimately do some damage out there. So, it's cool to see them shove off and, go for it. I think there's a little bit of me that's like, it's a little bittersweet because, it's cool. And it's obviously every single ski racer's dream, at least us, North Americans. And, but yeah, it's good motivation at the same time.
Yeah, Pat, I think you kind of hit the nail on the coffin there that, yeah, we're super excited to see everybody, but there's got to be a little bit of you that's a little bit fired up that you're not there as well. And so I think that really plays to another question. How do you use motivation and how do you create this motivation that you guys are all now post-college, you're older ski racers? How do you keep yourself fired up to continue in this crazy path of ski racing and continue to push for those results you're looking for?
Can I add to that, Parker?
Yeah.
So kind of thinking about just this day and age and your point in at this point in your career, what does a successful day look like? When you're sleeping, your head hits the pillow and you're like, damn, that was such a good day. What is that?
I can take that one. I would say that, results, while obviously being important, become much more difficult to achieve. at a NORAM race or a college race, for example, you can have like an okay day and finish, maybe not as well as you wanted to, but let's say in college, like you don't have a great day, but you finish 10th or 15th or something, and you still like score points for your school, and all those things. But at the World Cup level, if you're not all out, like near perfect run, like you don't have a shot. And so you have to kind of take a step back and just look at a progression that you've made. For example, for me, I started there was 4 World Cups in January, and I started off with losing my ski, and then falling in Wengen, and then straddling in Kitzbühel. And it's like, wow, that's just not how you want your World Cup season to get going. But I knew in those races that I had been making positive steps forward just in my preparation and how I was feeling on the snow and my mental game. And so it's a lot less whatever result based, like, oh, I won this race or I did whatever, but it's these more intrinsic factors that you have to take into account that become more important to you. And so I think it might not be as obvious to outsiders looking in, but you have to really just have the belief in yourself that that you're making progress and that you are improving, because it's just so hard at this level for it to see it on the result page every day.
Yeah, I love what you said there. Does anyone else have anything to add? Like, what helps them feel like they're feeling accomplished at the end of the day?
I feel like for speed, for me, if I make it down a new course and feel like I really pushed, then I'm pretty happy either way, especially on the World Cup. And then I feel like sometimes all it takes is like linking a couple arc turns where you're like, wow, I just sliced that. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Like
necessarily
that third
have to be
split.
like, yeah, like, oh, I killed the first split. I killed the start. Sometimes it just takes like little things, especially racing in Europe. I feel like there's a lot of tough days, and you really have to start looking at like what's inside, what's going on with you, and kind of like the little things. Otherwise, it's pretty easy to get down.
Yeah, I would say execution is like what makes me sleep the best, I guess. If you don't execute on your day, whether it's training or racing, it's, it can be a tough day. So you always got to find a way to execute something.
Small wins, right?
Yeah, I agree with all that. I mean, I think like even when you were talking about like going to bed at night, like if you can look back on the day and say, I gave everything I got, like whether that was on the snow, if it was in the gym, if you could do
Sitting in Normatec legs. Like,
yeah.
Gave it all you got.
Exactly. Given everything you got. That is what helps you go to bed. Say I did everything I could.
Cool. I think we're going to move into our speed round here of our quick questions that'll be pretty easy to answer, but we want to know what's coming to your head right as we ask it. And we'll just
Rapid fire.
We'll ask all of you. And so, Jeff, you want to take it away?
Okay, first rapid fire question. We'll start with Alex. Is favorite place to race? Favorite hill to race?
I would say the Dolomites, more specifically, Innikin or Dobiaco are just absolutely gorgeous locations, and they serve you pasta every night for dinner, so it's hard to beat that. And the racing's pretty cool too.
Steph.
Favorite place to race? Whistler. No, I'm kidding. Vale.
Hey.
Maddie.
I'm gonna say Vale, like Steph.
Wow. Patrick?
Lake Louise.
Cool. Moving to next one. Favorite place to free ski? Patrick, back to you.
Probably Aspen.
Steph?
Yeah, that's my answer too.
Whistler, 100%.
Maddie?
Snowbird.
Good pick.
Favorite skier? of all time, like your idol? Alex.
Oof. I think you have to go with Bodie. I mean, I think anyone our age growing up skiing, it's like he was the ultimate icon.
Maddie.
I'm gonna go with Lindsay, just because I feel like she's from Buck Hill and I looked up to her for so long.
Steph.
I was a big Julia fan because she was a little bit weird.
And Patrick.
Bodie, 150%.
Next one, Jeff.
Now, when are they gonna do a peekaboo, like the movie Peekaboo, but Bodie version? Like, we need that.
That would be really good.
We'll get
Lindsay,
on.
maybe you're listening and watch Après Productions.
Get Claire on it.
Okay. Celebratory meal, like favorite meal after like a Steph. I feel like you should kick this one off.
Sushi.
PK.
Ribeye steak.
Maddie.
We like doing homemade pizzas, but I would say ice cream. That's gotta be good.
And Alex.
Well, I would say that American food, that would be my comfort food. You can't really find it in Europe as much, so probably some Wiener Schnitzel.
Always a
Awesome.
time and place for Wiener Schnitzel, I guess.
Well, guys, thank you so much for going through some deeper questions, our rapid fire questions, and really just crushing overall information as we're sharing it with our community, because that's what we are all about, helping all of our younger racers and our grassroots clubs and teams get access to information that'll help them find success just as you have. And at Sync, all we want to do is support you find your own success. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to come on today. I hope it was fun, and to everybody watching, I hope you got something out of it. And Jeff, you got anything to say as we close out for our first ever live Q&A?
Well, that was a lot of pressure, but no, I think Parker, you did an amazing job, and athletes, thanks for taking the time. Like she said, you guys are the DNA of the brand, and that's what makes us who we are. So taking this time to talk to our community is pretty special, and look forward to doing it again. And we'll definitely good luck the rest of the season for all of you guys. Hopefully see you out there at NORAMs or Nationals, wherever. So good luck, and we'll talk to you guys all later.